Welcome back, viewers. You're watching WION World is One. This is World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Shivan Chandna.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and on the show today, it's D-Day for New York City, and its residents cast their votes to choose the next mayor. Democrat Mandani is poised to make a big win according to the exit polls. We're going to get you all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also on World DNA, amid the tariff war, the White House has stated that Donald Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are in regular contact, adding that Trump feels very positive and strongly about the relationship between the two countries. We bring you all the details on that. Let's start with the headlines.
We are on the brink of making history in our city, on the brink of saying goodbye to a politics of the past.
Mandani accuses Trump administration of trying to intimidate New Yorkers with baseless allegations of voter fraud after casting his vote in the city's mayoral election.
Trump calls tariff case hearing in Supreme Court life or death for US. Claims victory will have tremendous but fair financial and national security, without which, he said, Washington was virtually defenseless.
Cargo plane with 3 on board crashes shortly after takeoff from Louisville International Airport in Kentucky, exploding into flames and sending massive plume of black smoke. Former US Vice President Dick Cheney dies at 84 due to complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease.
And his trade team continue to be in very serious discussions with India with respect to that topic. So I know the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi, and they speak pretty frequently.
White House reaffirms President Donald Trump's commitment to the US-India ties, describing the partnership as one he feels very strongly about, even as tensions linger over the trade tariffs and oil imports from Russia.
Israel confirms the body returned by Hamas is that of Israeli-American soldier Itay Shen, seized in the October 2023 attacks.
Sudan's defense minister says army would press on with its fight against paramilitaries after the country's Security and Defense Council met to discuss a US proposal for a ceasefire.
Flights disrupted across Belgium after suspected drone sightings, with no planes departing or arriving at Brussels airport, which is the country's busiest.
EU member states failed to reach an agreement on their emission reduction target for 2040. Environment ministers to reconvene for further discussions on Wednesday before the UN climate conference in Brazil. And our top focus at this hour, it's D-Day in New York City as residents cast their votes to choose their next mayor.
Of course, and the exit polls suggest that Democrat Zoran Mamdani is on track to becoming the city's next mayor. Enthusiastic voters rushed to the polling booths to cast their votes as the race to elect New York's next mayor enters the final lap. According to a city election board, now the voter turnout was at around 735,000 at 1500 hours local time, which is roughly 4 times more than the votes cast in the previous election, which was held in 2021.
With voting set to close at around 2100 hours local time, residents of the Big Apple could be seen flaunting their I voted stickers while voicing their support for 34-year-old Democrat Mamdani. Voters say that they back the Democrat owing to his promises to make New York safe and affordable.
I voted for Mandani. As someone who's been living in New York City for over 10 years, affordability, safety, making New York feel like home for so many people who've been living here for decades, for all New Yorkers, for working families, for business people, for immigrants, for underrepresented people. So it's really important that we have a mayor that represents all types of New Yorkers and makes New Yorkers a place where everyone can thrive and work and live happily, healthily, and safely.
Well, as the race to becoming the next mayor heats up, US President Donald Trump said that any Jewish person voting for Zoran Mamdani is stupid.
Trump also urged residents to vote for independent candidate and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The latest comments come after Trump warned citizens that federal funding would be slashed for New York if Mamdani is voted as the mayor.
Well, according to the latest exit polls, Zoran Mamdani is currently leading with 44%, while his Republican contender Curtis Lewa is trailing by 24%.
Earlier, both Mamdani and Sliver casted their votes as the city that never sleeps awaits its next mayor. As the race to power intensifies, independent candidate and former governor of New York Andrew Cuomo has voiced concerns over a civil war that is brewing from within the Democratic Party. Further, Cuomo said that US President Donald Trump is not supporting him, while adding that if there is anyone who can protect New York from Trump, it is him.
Well, I think what you're seeing is a civil war in the Democratic Party that has been brewing for a while. You have an extreme radical left that is run by the socialists that is challenging what they would call moderate Democrats. I'm a moderate Democrat. And that contest is what you're seeing here. Anyone who can protect New York against President Trump, it's me. If Zoran Mamdani were mayor, Trump would go through him like a hot knife through butter. He would just step over him.
All right, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani will now join us live from New York. Susan, you're there in the midst of the action. You've been covering it through the day. Voting has now concluded, is what we've just understood. Give us more.
That's right. Voting has officially concluded here in New York City, and the 3 candidates were out and about until the very last minute. The 3 main candidates, Curtis Silva, the Republican candidate, of course, Andrew Cuomo, who was a Democratic candidate but lost in the primaries to Zoran Mamdani, changed his party affiliation to independent, and of course, Zoran Mamdani running on the Democrat ticket, a self-proclaimed Democrat socialist who seems to be, until now, leading in the polls. It was really unprecedented how many people went to early voting, about over 700,000 New Yorkers. Compare that to 2021. Only about 160,000 went to the polls to vote. However, many believe that it's the over 50 crowd that usually waits until election day who's going to be determining this year's election. And they are mostly independent, and a lot of them were undecided until today. So it'll be interesting. We'll get results very early, of course, because of those early polling numbers. And then election night results, which is tonight, right now, as we speak, that's going to perhaps, taper as we go through the night. And you alluded to the I voted sticker that a lot of New Yorkers have. I have mine as well. I cast my ballot as well. And I will tell you, the polling stations, despite early voting being so high, the polling stations were pretty crowded, at least during the afternoon hours.
And that's always a good sign.
Absolutely. And Susan, as you've just mentioned, the voting, the turnout has been tremendous. We've seen around 2 million people who have voted, and this has been unprecedented since the 1960s. And although the exit polls show that Mandani clearly has the wind swing in his favor, but given this huge turnout, do you think there could be any surprises coming the way, or are things slated to be pretty clear going forward?
Yeah, that's, everyone, you look at the betting sites, Polymarket and others, and people are betting. Someone bet just early in the morning, dropped about $1 million on Zoran Mamdani. So polling sites, betting sites, the media, everyone thinks that Zoran Mamdani has this in the bag. But as we've seen, upsets always happen. I was listening to an interview from the Cuomo camp. They still believe that they have a chance once the numbers come in. But, New York is just one aspect of what the Democrats and perhaps nationally everyone is looking at. You have also elections, governor's elections in New Jersey and Virginia. They're leaning Democrat as well. And then I just want to say that you have a proposition just nationally, Proposition 50. California voters are voting on that today as well. And that's regarding redistricting maps. And so if that goes through, then the Democrats will end up with 5 extra seats on Capitol Hill in Congress. That's going to be a huge win for the Democrats. So while Andrew Cuomo talks about the infighting in the Democrat Party, where you have someone to the extreme left like Zoran Mamdani, and you have more moderates in Virginia and perhaps in New Jersey if they win, that really does exist. And we'll have to wait and see, which direction the Democratic Party wants to go through. But because Zoran Mamdani here in New York is so much to the left and he's so popular, Republicans across the country actually think that this is a gift to them, that come midterms, because everyone's already talking about the midterms, which is about a year from now, come midterms, they can say the Democrat Party has turned into extreme left and whatnot. But all of that aside, tonight will determine who will occupy Gracie Mansion, which is the official residence of the mayor of New York City. And we'll have to take it from there and see which candidate really grabs all the votes.
Absolutely, Susan. Thank you so much for getting us all those details. That was our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, joining us from New York.
The US is looking forward to not just secure but govern Gaza.
Well, Donald Trump's administration is working on a draft UNSC resolution that would reportedly allow an international force in Gaza. Now, this force would constitute US and other participating members, a broad 2-year mandate to govern Gaza and be in charge of security there.
According to an Axios report, the so-called International Stabilization Force will be in charge of securing the Gaza Strip's borders with Israel and Egypt. It will ensure the safety of civilians and humanitarian zones and train the new Palestinian police officers in the area.
Well, the force's mandate will apparently include disarming Hamas, with the draft saying International Security Force, or the ISF, will stabilize the security environment in Gaza by ensuring the process of demilitarization in the enclave.
Additionally, the resolution calls for US President Donald Trump's proposed Board of Peace, the powers of a transitional governance administration with international legal personality that will set the framework and coordinate funding for the redevelopment of Gaza pursuant to the comprehensive plan. So according to the reports, this board will be in place until the Palestinian Authority has satisfactorily completed its reform program.
Now, Israel wants no part of Palestinian Authority to govern Gaza. However, Washington is set to negotiate these terms in the next 2 weeks.
The question that arises will Trump move to gather funds and work towards building a Riviera as he had once planned, a vision that he shared on his social media handle earlier this year?
However, the picture on the ground tells a very different story. For Palestinians, ceasefire exists without any peace. Living under constant shelling as the IDF continues to target what it calls Hamas terror spots, over 100 Palestinians have been killed. Amid food, aid and fuel shortages, Palestinians are trying to find ways to sustain themselves.
The situation changed. There is war, we can't find food, we are tired, and there is famine. Many things have happened. If gas was being provided, it would solve a lot of problems for the people. People can start cooking on the stove, they can fry potatoes, make a meal to eat with their children, make coffee at night without having to light a fire at night.
All right, and moving on, at least 3 people have died after a UPS cargo plane crashed moments after taking off from Louisville International Airport.
The cause of the crash is under investigation by the Federal Aviation Administration and the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board. Now, the plane was en route Hawaii. Video shared by local broadcaster WLKY appears to show the aircraft left engine on fire as it tried to lift off.
Shit. Holy shit. Holy shit.
Kentucky governor said that the toll is going to rise, with 11 injuries, some very significant, being treated at the local hospitals.
Aerial footage of the crash site shows a long trail of debris as firefighters blast water on the flames, the smoke billowing from the disaster area. And the crash comes amid one of the longest government shutdowns in US history, with Transportation's Secretary Sean Duffy warning of mass chaos on Tuesday due to a lack of air traffic control staff.
Now, in a post on social media, Duffy called footage of the crash heartbreaking, urging people to join him in prayers for the Louisville community and flight crew were impacted by the horrific crash.
In the month of January, an American Eagle airliner hit a military Black Hawk outside Washington's Ronald Reagan Airport, killing 67 people. That crash, which ended the US 16-year streak of no fatal commercial air crashes, has added to concerns about the US air traffic control system. Typhoon Kalmegi has killed at least 66 people and displaced hundreds of thousands as torrential rains sweep across central Philippines.
While whole towns in the island of Cebu are underwater. So far, 39 deaths have been confirmed in Cebu province, not counting casualties from Cebu city. While officials are still updating the toll, at least 5 others have died in neighboring provinces. Rescuers in the city continue to search for survivors, while officials say that the bodies of 2 children have been recovered as teams struggle to reach residents still trapped by the rising floodwaters.
Scientists continue to warn that climate change is making storms like Kalmegi more destructive. Warmer oceans are fueling stronger typhoons, while a warmer atmosphere holds more moisture, leading to heavier rainfall.
Adding to the crisis, hundreds of people still living in 10 cities after a 6.9 magnitude earthquake in late September were evacuated for their safety. Now, according to civil defense officials, nearly 400,000 people have been moved out of the typhoon's path. Kalmegi is now moving westward through the Visayan Island chain, packing winds of up to 120 kilometers per hour, with gusts reaching 165. It has weakened slightly, but continues to dump heavy rain across large parts of the country.
The Philippines is hit by an average of 20 storms and typhoons each year, many striking the same vulnerable areas where millions live in poverty. With Kalmegi, that annual average has already been reached, and forecasters warn that 3 to 5 more storms could still form before the end of December this year.
But the country is still recovering from 2 major storms in September, including Super Typhoon Gaza, which ripped off roofs and killed 14 people in nearby Taiwan. Who saved the world? A complex question in Christianity with no simple answer.
Now, the debate may soon stand settled. According to the Vatican, Virgin Mary did not help Jesus save the world from damnation. Then the question is, who did? A new decree from the Holy See's top doctrinal office, approved by Pope Leo XIV, instructs the world's 1.4 billion Catholics not to call Mary the co-redeemer.
Well, similar objections were raised by the late Pope Francis, who even dismissed the idea as foolish at one point.
In fact, her role has been limited to being an intermediary between God and humanity, as the mother of Jesus, who the Vatican says saved the world alone.
Well, for centuries, scholars have debated this topic over and over again. However, nothing decisive came out of it up until now.
Catholics strongly believe Jesus redeemed humanity through his crucifixion and death before rising again 3 days later. However, polarizing claims have led to flashpoints within the church and even caused disagreements among recent popes.
Francis' predecessor, Benedict, also opposed the title relegated to Virgin Mary, his predecessor. John Paul II supported it but stopped using the title publicly in the mid-1990s after the doctrinal office began expressing skepticism around the same.
And Myanmar is marking the end of the rainy season with an 8-day-long celebration featuring fireworks and giant balloons.
The festival is being held against a backdrop of civil war, which is ignited by the military's overthrow of the elected government in 2021. Take a look at these visuals. And with that, it's time for us to slip into a very short break on World DNA.
Don't go anywhere. Coming up on the other side, the White House reaffirms President Donald Trump's commitment to US-India ties, describing the partnership as one he feels very strongly about, even as tensions linger over trade tariffs and oil imports, India's oil imports from Russia. We bring you all the details on that after a short break. This is World DNA. Come right back.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Deeksha. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. We're bringing you all the details coming in from New York as the conclusion has happened of the election process for the mayor. Let's bring you all the details. Let's start with the headlines.
Polls close in New York. Officials from the Board of Elections says more than 2 million votes cast, which is the highest since 1969.
Democrats flip Virginia in the first major test of Trump's second term. Wins back governor's mansion from Republicans. Abigail Spanberger to be the first woman to run the state.
Trump calls tariff case hearing in Supreme Court life or death for US. Claims victory will result in tremendous but fair financial and national security.
At least 4 dead as a cargo plane crashes shortly after takeoff from Louisville International Airport in Kentucky, exploding into flames and sending massive plumes of black smoke.
His trade team continue to be in very serious discussions with India with respect to that topic. So I know the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi, and they speak pretty frequently.
White House reaffirms President Donald Trump's commitment to US-India ties, describing the partnership as one he feels very strongly about, even as tensions linger over trade tariffs and oil imports from Russia.
The death toll in the train accident near Chhattisgarh's Bilaspur district rises to 11. Chief Minister Deosai expresses grief, announces a compensation of 5 lakh rupees for the families of the deceased.
Israel confirms the body returned by Hamas is that of Israeli-American soldier Cheney, which was seized in October 2023 attacks.
Flights disrupted across Belgium after suspected drone sightings, with no planes departing or arriving at Brussels airport, the country's busiest.
EU member states failed to reach an agreement on their emission reduction target for 2040. Environment ministers to reconvene for further discussions on Wednesday before the UN climate conference in Brazil.
In a highly volatile session, Bitcoin slumps more than 7%, crashes below the $100,000 mark for the first time since June before making a slight recovery. The crypto is down more than 20% from its record high reached a month ago.
As voting drew to a close in New York City, exit polls suggest that Democrat Zoran Mamdani is on track to becoming the city's next mayor.
Earlier, enthusiastic voters, they rushed to the polling booths to cast their votes. Officials from the Board of Elections say more than 2 million votes were cast, highest since 1969.
Well, residents of the Big Apple were seen flaunting their "I voted" stickers while voicing their support for the 34-year-old Democrat Mamdani. Voters say that they backed the Democrat owing to his promises of making New York safe and affordable.
I voted for Mandani. As someone who's been living in New York City for over 10 years, affordability, safety, making New York feel like home for so many people who've been living here for decades, for all New Yorkers, for working families, for business people, for immigrants, for underrepresented people. So it's really important that we have a mayor that represents all types of New Yorkers and makes New Yorkers a place where everyone can thrive and work and live happily, healthily, and safely.
As the race to become the next mayor heats up, US President Donald Trump said that any Jewish person voting for Zoran Mamdani is stupid, quote unquote.
Well, Trump also urged residents to vote for independent candidate and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The latest comments come after Trump warned citizens that federal funding would be slashed for New York if Mamdani is voted as the mayor.
According to the latest exit polls, Zoran Mamdani is currently leading with 44%, while his Republican contender Curtis Sliver is trailing by 24%.
Now, prior to this, both Mamdani and Sliver casted their votes as the city that never sleeps awaits its next mayor.
As the race to power intensifies, independent candidate and former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, has voiced concerns over a civil war that is brewing from within the Democratic Party. Further, Cuomo said that US President Trump is not supporting him, while adding that if there is anyone who can protect New York from Trump, it is him.
I think what you're seeing is a civil war in the Democratic Party that has been brewing for a while. You have an extreme radical left that is run by the socialists that is challenging what they would call moderate Democrats. I'm a moderate Democrat. And that contest is what you're seeing here. Anyone who can protect New York against President Trump, it's me. If Zoran Mandani were mayor, Trump would go through him like a hot knife through butter. He would just step over him.
In other developments, Democrat Abigail Spanberger has won the governor elections by defeating Republican Winsome Earl Sears. Abigail Spanberger will be the first woman to run the state and will now succeed Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin.
All right, from New York, we're now being joined live by Robert Shapiro, Professor of Political Science and in the School of International and Public Affairs, Columbia University. Professor, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll also later be joined by our correspondent, Susan Tehrani. Professor, let's start with, the voter turnout. Let's start there. Not been seen since 1969. What do you feel has brought so many people out to vote this time? It's unprecedented if you compare it to what we saw in 2021 in New York.
Well, what's unprecedented here is the campaign by a young, energetic, new politician on the scene, Zoran Mamdani. And the thing that's most astonishing in the exit poll results is that he's won close to 90% of the vote, really quite extraordinary. And further, and this was a bit in doubt, and he is winning the black vote, which it wasn't clear he was going to win. But the young voters voting extraordinarily for him, and I suspect a lot of the turnout is among these younger voters. It really is quite impressive.
Right, Mr. Shapiro, and the public opinion polling has given Mr. Mamdani a clear lead as of right now. And we know that this steady lead, he has pulled off a stunning upset against Mr. Cuomo. But now, as we were discussing, the turnout surging past 2 million voters, which are levels not seen since 1960s. Do you think the outcome could yet be a surprise, given the large sample size here?
No, well, I've seen more recent data based on actual votes. And Mamdani is ahead by more than the numbers that you just cited. It's still not clear he's the undisputed winner at this point, but it's very much trending in that direction, just as the votes are trending toward the Democratic candidate in New Jersey at the moment.
And Professor, as far as projections are concerned, well, NBC is already projecting that Mamdani has won. But if you just look at the kind of campaign that he has had, and then if you compare it to the opposition in terms of Cuomo, at least. On one end, you have Trump putting his weight behind Cuomo. Cuomo, on the other hand, says that he's the only one who can save New York from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is then giving out statements saying he'll cut federal funding for New York. Is this showing a lot of desperation from Trump 2.0 to get, do they project something which is not going in their favor already? What does this show about Trump?
Oh, I think with Trump, you're seeing a lot of theater here, in the sense that his support for Cuomo is emphasizing his opposition to Mamdani, who he accuses of being a Marxist, communist, leftist, etc., and a threat to the United States. So his support of Cuomo highlights that, and he's already made direct threats at Mamdani himself, and also withholding aid from New York. And for the purpose not only of attacking Mamdani, but he wants to vilify the Democratic Party after this election, because he knows that the Republicans may be hurting going into the midterm election, and one chance of them to do better in the election than it looks like they may be doing is to really demonize the Democrats. And Mamdani is the lightning rod for that, so to speak.
Of course, and Mr. Shapiro, we know Donald Trump's shadow has loomed large over the election. He, as we've discussed, thrown his weight behind Andrew Cuomo and has also threatened to penalize the city if voters choose Mamdani. Now, do you think that could have played a role in influencing the voter sentiment on ground in any way?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I lost your voice for a minute.
No problem, Mr. Shapiro. I wanted to understand that now we know that Donald Trump's shadow has loomed large over the election, and he has very clearly thrown his weight behind Andrew Cuomo, at least that's what he has claimed, and has also threatened to penalize the city if the voters choose Mamdani, as we just discussed. Now, do you think that could have had a role to play in influencing the voter sentiment on ground?
Well, it's very interesting. It could have heightened the emotional level of Mamdani's supporters. I mean, that's an interesting hypothesis. I think they were poised to be energized and to come out to vote anyway. Clearly, what Trump did not help Andrew Cuomo.
All right, Professor, thanks so much for joining us here on World DNA. Of course, a lot of projections are coming out, giving it totally in Mamdani's favor. But as far as Virginia is concerned, Republicans have already lost there. And, we are waiting for the final results to come out. There will be more to discuss. That was Professor Shapiro joining us here on World DNA. I'd like to now cut across to our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who's also there with us. Susan, you've been tracking the developments since throughout the day. It's been a busy day. Do you think the results are going to be out as soon? Because most of the projections from a lot of the media houses are already out, giving it totally in Mamdani's favor. Let's talk about New York first. All right, we'll try to reconnect with Susan there, who's there in New York tracking all the developments coming in. All right, Susan, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have the AP that has called it for Mandani, Fox, the local Spectrum News here, New York one as well. And New Yorkers believe that their next mayor has been elected, and that Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old lawmaker who became this electrifying voice for New Yorkers, who were just frustrated with not only runaway living costs, but also apparently a scandal-plagued former governor. They went to the ballots and they have their voices heard, and we see that these outlets have already called it for Mamdani, and he is the projected winner to become New York's first Muslim mayor.
Absolutely, Susan, and we know that if Mamdani wins, it's going to mark a stunning rise from the little-known state lawmaker to the leader of the nation's biggest city. And Mamdani has held a steady lead in the race since he pulled off a shock upset over Cuomo, but we know that the run-up hasn't been without controversies. Now, if things go as they are projected, what kind of obstacles do you think we could expect? And how would that be, how would the decision be taken by the public at large?
Right. So that's a very valid question, and that has been really at the heart of what Mamdani has been vying for. And he's been calling for rent freezes, he's been calling for free buses, and a lot of other things that really get decided on a state level. A mayor doesn't have the authority to make the changes that he was promising. So how he wants to go about that, and whether or not the state, which would be the governor of New York, would go along with him and his, for example, tax rises on the wealthy, which our current governor has so far said that she's not going to go along with, then that's going to be a problem for him.
Susan, allow us to come in with just some breaking news which has just come in. And yes, all the projections seem to have gone right in the right direction. Zohran Mamdani has been elected mayor of New York City. It is official and the news is out. Zohran Mamdani elected mayor of New York City, first Muslim mayor for New York, capping the Democrats' stunning ascent from, of course, a little-known state lawmaker, of course, and he's 34 years old. He's defeated former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliver in Tuesday's election. It's been a big day, definitely, for Zohran Mamdani. That's the news which is out. This is what we've learned. It is official. Zohran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York. He's had a stunning campaign, to say the least. And as far as the voter turnout has been concerned, we've seen a major, major increase in the number of voters that actually came out, unprecedented in the last 6 decades at least.
Absolutely, and Mamdani has led a progressive multiracial grassroots campaign that has energized young voters, working class families and also communities of color across the 5 boroughs.
Zohran Mamdani elected mayor of New York City. That's the breaking news we have for you. It's not been a good day for the Republicans, to say the least. That's what we have for you so far. Let us cut back to Susan, who's there with us from New York. Susan, I think everyone saw this one coming, and correctly so. Let's put it out there now. Zoran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York.
That's right. Really, his win represents a major triumph for progressives. You know, he's hoping to empower a new coalition of a younger generation going into office. It'll be very interesting how his campaign is going to be studied by other Democrats. Of course, we're also getting early results that the Democrats did win in Virginia and New Jersey as well. Those are more moderate Democrats. They're not so left-leaning like Zoran Mamdani. But nonetheless, the Democratic Party now has to come to terms with which direction it wants to go. Is it going to be the Bernie Sanders, the AOC, the Zoran Mamdani camp, or is it going to still be dominated by the so-called old guards of the Democratic Party? Remember, Barack Obama supported Mamdani but didn't endorse him. Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, did not endorse Zoran Mamdani. You had Hakeem Jeffries, who came ultimately and endorsed him, but nonetheless, you know, they've tried to keep their distance from him until now. But what does this really say about the Democrat Party moving forward? I will say that the Republicans, although it hasn't been a good day for them, at least here in New York, and there's a lot of concern about Mamdani's policies, but they will use Mamdani as the poster child of the new Democratic Party, which they're going to represent as being a socialist, leftist Democrat Party in the midterm elections. And they're going to be hammering on that all the way to next year to the midterms. How much of that is going to be a success? Well, it wasn't successful here in New York. The more Mamdani got attacked, and it was very similar to President Trump's election last year, the more you attacked him, the more popular he got among the voters. So, you know, very interesting times. Indeed.
Yeah, and live in front of us, we have the visuals of the celebrations, as one would expect. Big celebrations happening, everyone celebrating Zoran Mamdani's win. And of course, the voter turnout gave it away. The exit polls were speaking in his favor. Most media houses were projecting a Mamdani win, and it's finally out. It didn't take long for the election result to come out.
Absolutely, Shivan. And as we can see, the energy is electric at the crowds. We know that Zoran Mamdani, who has called himself a democratic socialist, has now become the city's first Muslim mayor. Now, he has drawn liberal voters with plans of free childcare, free bus transport, and a rent freeze which has affected nearly 1 million rent-regulated New Yorkers.
And, you know, Diksha, it's not been a great day for the Republican House. Susan also mentioned this. Let us quickly just go over the results from the other regions. As far as New York is concerned, it's clear the Republicans have lost here. Mamdani has won. Virginia, again, Democrat Abigail Spanberger has defeated Republican Winsome Earl Sears. And as far as Ohio is concerned, Indian origin Cincinnati Mayor Aftab Puriwal has secured a second term, defeating Republican rival Cory Bowman, who is U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's half-brother, by the way. And in New Jersey, again, Decision Desk headquarters projects Democrat Sherrill as the winner in New Jersey's governor's race. So anywhere we've not seen any red wave coming in, and what has gone against them. A lot of questions are also going to start rising regarding the midterm elections, which are a year away from now, but the trend doesn't really seem to be going in the right direction if you're looking at it from the red camp. Susan, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a valid point. And remember, I mean, we are talking about traditionally blue states right now. So it'll be very interesting what's going to happen in the midterms. But usually the party in power, if they're very lucky, they hang on to the Senate and they lose the House. And that might happen again this round, especially because there is a proposition that California is voting on, and that's regarding redistricting maps. And they want to take it from an independent body to the legislator. If this proposition goes through in California, then automatically the Democrats will gain some 5 seats in Congress come the midterm. They're saying that they're doing this in response to Texas, who redistricts their map based on their voter count, and Texas gained some Republican seats. But nonetheless, if that Proposition 50 goes through in California, well, the Democrats already will have an upper hand come the midterms. But, you know, again, it'll be very interesting from now until midterm elections, which campaigning has already started for the midterms. where the country stands. You know, New York is a very different animal, but where does the country ultimately stand? Is this going to be a referendum on President Trump and his policies, or is it going to, you know, the pendulum is going to turn more again towards the Democrats, and will the Democrats be able to win the hearts and minds of Americans? So much of that was lost in the last presidential campaign.
Right, Susan, just for all our viewers tuning in right now, we'd like to repeat, New York has a new mayor. It is Zoran Mamdani, 34-year-old. He's a Democrat nominee, and he has won the elections in New York City. He was facing off against former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent eventually, and Republican nominee Curtis Sliver. He ran against them and won. Eric Adams, who was the previous mayor of New York City, had dropped out of the mayoral race in September. Polls started at 6 a.m. on Tuesday, U.S. local time, and were underway until 9 p.m. there. Susan, our correspondent, was there on ground tracking the developments. All projections are going in Mamdani's favor, and now we have the win which has been declared. Mamdani is 34 years old. He was born in Uganda and raised in New York City. Is a New York State Assembly member and Democratic Socialist who's won as a mayor. He's the son of renowned Indian filmmaker Meera Nair and Mahmood Mamdani, a Ugandan author of Indian ancestry.
Absolutely, and we know that now Zoran Mamdani has become the city's first Muslim mayor. And now, just to take a look at his the main pointers that he was running for, which included plans for free childcare, which also included free bus transport, and a rent freeze affecting roughly 1 million rent-regulated New Yorkers. Now, he has defeated independent, as we've just mentioned, independent Andrew Cuomo, according to projection, we've just seen, as per the results. And Mamdani, who calls himself a democratic socialist, has become the city's first Muslim mayor as well as the youngest mayor in history.
And Mamdani, as mayor, these are some of the vows that he had made. Of course, now that his term starts, we'll get to see how much of that he's able to deliver on. He will immediately freeze the rent for all stabilized tenants and use every available resource to build the housing New Yorkers need and bring down the rent. This is all that he spoke during his campaign. He promised fast, fare, free buses. His campaign said that as mayor, he'll permanently eliminate the fare on every city bus and make them faster by rapidly building priority lanes, expanding bus queue jump signals, dedicated loading signal zones to keep double parkers out of the way. Mamdani would also He claims that he will implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years, ensuring high-quality programming for all families. With food prices out of control, as he says, his campaign has also promised he would create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low and not making a profit. A lot of claims there, Diksha, that Mamdani has been making, but clearly it has worked in his favor. He's galvanized the voter sentiment. He's got more people to come. Partially, he would have played a role in the number of people coming out and in the voter turnout. Susan, if you're there with us, do you feel so? Do you feel Mamdani's campaign would also have been instrumental in the number of people that actually came out and voted?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think the Democrats are going to be studying his campaign very closely. He really stuck to his message of affordability, which is the most important issue for New Yorkers across the board, and he didn't deviate from that. And also, apparently now we see that regarding his past comments that some might have labeled anti-Semitic against the Jewish population, he was able to turn that as well. And whether you like him or not, he ran a campaign and he was on the ground every step of the way with no stones left unturned. And really that wasn't the case for Cuomo. It was to an extent for Curtis Sliver, who was running on the Republican ticket, but it's very hard for a Republican to win New York, which is very, very deep blue. You know, the way he campaigned, the manner that he talked to New Yorkers, it resonated with them. And I don't think that it helped Andrew Cuomo that at the last minute President Trump came and endorsed him. That endorsement might have hurt him more than helped him ultimately.
We're also being joined by Robert V. Shapiro again. He's a professor of political science in the School of International and Public Affairs, Columbia University. Thank you so much, Professor Shapiro, for joining us again. Now, the results are out. Zoran Mamdani, the newly elected mayor of New York City. Now, this victory is notable in many ways. He is the youngest mayor. He's also the first Muslim mayor. And we know that the victory over the former governor, Andrew Cuomo, and Republican nominee Curtis Levi is remarkable, but more than that, he represents the kind of politicians that many in the party have been seeking for. Won't you agree?
I'd agree. He represents a new face in the Democratic Party. He's a new face of the left wing of the Democratic Party, and his success, I think, may be peculiar to New York City and also to certain big city areas that have young and diverse populations that would gravitate toward a candidate like him, with his energy, charisma, ability to use the media, and he wears a tie and jacket.
Definitely, he's worn that all throughout his campaign, Professor. But as far as all the promises he's made, how much of that do you feel will be easy for him to incorporate and bring into play? Because now, of course, all eyes will be on all that he promised during his campaign. Let me quickly, just go over the things that he promised. That he will be freezing rent for all stabilized tenants. He promised fast, fare-free buses. Campaign, he'll eliminate the fare on every city bus. He would implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years. So, and this, of course, and a long list of promises that he's made.
Well, in terms of things he can do, I mean, he can put his people on the on the rent review board and freeze rents. He can try to enact these policies in terms of free childcare and free buses, but he has to find the revenue to pay for that, and to increase taxes in the way he wants to on the rich, it basically requires state approval. He also talks about making New York City safer. He can probably do as well as any other mayor. If he keeps Tisch as the head of the New York City Police, that would go significantly toward that and build confidence in his ability to deal with crime. I mean, perhaps no better than the previous mayor, but certainly not worse. As he's been accused of being weak when it comes to law and order, wanting at one point to defund the police.
Of course, and so we also know that the win is already fanning the debate about the future of the Democratic Party and what this sudden political stardom could mean for next year's midterm elections. How do you think that is going to play out?
Well, I mean, there may be a big push among certain segments of the Democratic Party to try to run more left-leaning candidates. Their ability to do that successfully really is going to depend on the particular locations where they're trying to do it. There are two theories here. One is they need new faces, more energy, and more left-leaning policies. The other theory is the Democratic Party needs to moderate. And the truth is probably it depends on locations. The big effect of this current election, the Democrats winning in Virginia, and it looks like New Jersey as well, and here in New York City, the party has been energized and it's coming back in a way that wasn't very clear after the election. The Democratic Party was in disarray and it lacked energy. Well, that energy is now back, and the Republicans need to pay attention, and the Democrats now have the normal kind of an opportunity that an out party has going into a midterm election. And there was some debate whether it would have that opportunity given how poorly the last election was.
Professor, Democrats winning in primarily blue states, how much do you feel will deter or would demoralize the red camp in terms of the results? Because how far are the results from apart from New York, from what one would have otherwise expected from these states?
Well, as I said, in this kind of election after a major presidential election, it's not unusual for the incumbent party to lose these elections, these gubernatorial elections. So this is basically no different from usual. The Republican Party, currently, and particularly the MAGA wing of the party with Trump, is still very solid and strong. Trump's popularity has been basically steady. There've been charges. There have been claims that it's really been going down and so forth. It really has been strikingly steady. It hasn't gone down. It hasn't gone up either, even with his success in the Middle East. But this is certainly a wake-up call for the Republicans. It's not something that I would think the Republicans would be demoralized by. I think it's something that the Republicans would basically need to know that they need to regroup, and they have a fight ahead of them in the midterm election if they want to hold the House of Representatives and even hold on to the Senate as well.
Understood. Professor Shapiro, let me bring in the warning, I would say, if not a threat, which came in from Donald Trump just recently. That was yesterday, that he said that he'll cut federal funding for New York if Mamdani wins. How much do you feel that is possible to happen? Because it's Trump, so you really don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens. And if it does happen, what kind of impact can it have for Mamdani?
Well, in terms of Trump's power to do it, at this moment in time, Trump's power seems to be enormous. He can do what he wants. He's currently violated a court order by withholding food stamp assistance to people, and this is really something that would be illegal if the Supreme Court hadn't held that the president is immune from doing things he does as president. In terms of what spending he could cut, it depends on what funds are earmarked for New York and are available. There are funds for building infrastructure and transportation and so forth that clearly could be affected, and other forms of assistance, and also Medicaid and food stamp assistance in general affects people who live in New York City. So these kinds of things can have substantial effects, but they have